One more time. One more time. One more time.
Hackers couldn't access the internet just by dialing up the way you might today. So the only way they could get access at that point in time was to break into universities such as Melbourne University.
Phoenix had got a Melbourne Uni account off someone else and he'd passed it on to me. And at that stage, I started using Melbourne Uni's computers to access computers on the internet.
System administrators at Melbourne University regarded hackers as a nuisance and would trace their calls after first clipping the modem line. As the illegal logins persisted, the university notified the Australian Federal Police.
There was a guy who had an account at Melbourne Uni, and I logged onto his machine anonymously and was having a chat to him. And he started talking about how Melbourne Uni had called in the Federal Police and Electron and Phoenix were involved in it, and it looks like there's going to be problems for them. I think initially we held conflicting views about whether the activities we're involved in were criminal or not. It was easy for us to think that this wasn't illegal and we weren't going to get into a lot of trouble. But on the other hand, it was nice to think that, oh well, maybe what we're doing is a bit naughty and perhaps a little bit illegal, and that makes it look a bit more romantic than it would otherwise. The 1980s was an interesting time to be growing up because there was the spectre of the Cold War during those years. And I can distinctly remember having nightmares about having nuclear missile silos in the backyard.
My fellow Americans, thank you for sharing your time with me tonight. Let me share with you a vision of the future which offers hope. It is that we embark on a program to counter the awesome Soviet missile threat with measures that are defensive.
There was a fatalism among some of the hackers, a sense that a nuclear war might start at any time, and as a result, it reduced a sense of consequences for their actions.
I remember logging on anonymously one night and these people were saying the only reason Electron hasn't launched any nuclear missiles yet, he's got all the launch codes, but they need to turn the key in the silo, and that's why he's unable to launch them. It was bizarre.
We had the United States Secret Service contact the Australian Federal Police because they'd had problems with hackers getting into some of the American systems. They were convinced that the hackers came from Australia, and they were jumping up and down quite a bit to get us to do something.
The referral from the United States was a bit of a bombshell, because here was this referral of crimes committed on computers. And when you look at law enforcement at that time, not just Australia but the world, no one had really looked at this sort of stuff before. It was brand new.
I'll, leave your dinner here.
All right, we'll get it later.
My father knew what I was doing, but his attitude was that it was my problem, and if I got caught, that it was bad luck. I think in some ways he saw computers as a positive thing and thought that if he's spending time on the computer, then that's an important skill. And that may have been partly why he was willing to turn a bit of a blind eye.
I think the prime motivator was that they had a good time. I saw it also in terms of it was another Everest. It was there, so they climbed it. They were seen to be very clever, and they probably were very clever. There's no doubt about that. Very clever young people.
Well, there's the rush that you get from having broken in. There's also the feeling of control over the computer. It's almost like you're projected into the computer and you're able to operate things from this remote location. It was the remote access that I liked, and the safety and anonymity of that. The realisation that I was addicted to hacking probably first came when I asked my father to hide the modem during exam times. It was the only way I was able to give myself any time to study. The first thing I normally did after studying for a couple of hours was start fossicking like a truffle pig looking for the modem. There was an online chat system in Germany which was referred to as Altos. It was a hothouse of some of the best hackers in the world.
This was the probably most important community place where hackers from Germany, the US, Australia, around the globe would gather together to share information about sites that they'd hacked, accounts that they might be willing to share with each other in order to continue their hacking.
On Altos, Electron formed an online friendship with a West German hacker known as Pengo, who was part of a group known as the Chaos Computer Club. What Electron didn't know was that Pengo and another hacker named Hagbard were selling information they had stolen from US military computers to the KGB.
There were several meetings over a 2-year period between the German hackers and KGB agents.
Das ist Pengo, wie ich bereits erzählt habe.
I don't think that Pengo's main motivation in this was some form of purposeful espionage. He actually said he just wanted to be the best hacker ever. And to some degree, this also gave him access to bigger and better machines. I don't think he was interested in spying for the Russians, per se.
Like all the changes that have swept East Germany recently, the beginning of the end for the Berlin Wall came much sooner than was expected.
The sense of being in an international community on Altos was really highlighted during important world events. Speaking live online to Pengo in Germany at the time of the fall of the Berlin Wall was quite an experience. It really gave you a feeling of a world without borders.
It's an emotional moment for Germans.
On Altos, the Australian hackers had a